Welcome to the Bold Money Revolution podcast. This is your source for straight talking, no fluff, business and high performance conversations that add real depth and value to the way bold leaders live, work, and thrive. I'm your host, Tara Newman. I'm here to show you how to optimize your performance as a leader so that you can grow a business that is profit-rich, efficient, and allows you to generate real, tangible wealth for yourself and others. We are here to help you lead with your values, to perform without overwhelm and burnout, and to do your most important work in the world. Hey there. Welcome to the Bold Money Revolution podcast. This is Tara Newman, and today I'm here with a very, very special co-host, Joe Gifford, aka Professor Giff. For those of you who don't know, she was with me from the very, very beginning of this podcast. So it's like we're kicking it back old school. Hey, Joe.
Hey, Tara. I'm so happy to be here, old school. Thanks for having me.
Okay. So the reason why Joe is here is Joe is on my team and she sits right beside me with curriculum development and customer experience in the Bold Profit Academy. And what we want to do today is to let you in, to take you behind the scenes of what it looks like to be making progress in your business, like the women in the Bold Profit Academy. We're hoping that this gives you some inspiration. We hope this gives you a dose of reality, whether you're seeing things online or you're reading scary headlines in the news or you're feeling isolated in your business journey and you're frustrated and you feel like you're banging your head against the wall. I don't know anybody who's ever felt that way. Joe, have you?
Oh, never. No.
Tantruming, tears,
burning it down,
frustrated. So, we want to give you a little ray of sunshine in your day. And we hope that you really enjoy some of these wins and progress that we're going to be talking about that the members get as much as we do. Because, and I think we should probably share, Joe, I started creating this program in 2020. Yeah. And Joe has sat beside me, literally. Well, I mean, like on Zoom, because she's in Cambridge, England, and I'm in New York, but sat right beside me as I've created this program. What's your background, Joe? Why are you qualified to be sitting beside me in this illustrious way?
Oh, you have that big pond in between us. I'm so honored to be sat beside you. My background's a weird one, and it's an interesting mix, right? So I started off, managing graphic design teams. So my first career was graphic design, and I moved into, since I went freelance a long time ago, and I've been doing consulting. My background is really in content creation, with everything from the creative thinking side of things through to creating long form and short form content for a whole range of clients in the startup and scale up space, also working with content creation and project management. So what I bring here is a mixture of all that stuff. And I loved to apply those skills and that knowledge to work within our lovely team and to support our amazing members get the wins that I celebrate with you every single week.
Yeah, your genius is really in creating content that one creates connection, but two creates an experience, a customer experience, a user experience. And, as we're going into this year of evaluating and refining and improving the program, which we have a quarterly improvement process for this program. This isn't just set it and forget it. This isn't you're buying something that is stale or stagnant. It changes. It's a dynamic program. It's always being evaluated based on customer needs as well as our increased knowledge. And we're really looking at it now from like, how can we make this the most user-friendly experience for people? How can we be putting knowledge at their fingertips to make it even easier for them to access and to participate? And whether you're an independent learner and want to come in and use the tools and the resources on your own, or whether or not you want to participate in any way in the community, we are welcoming all kinds of people in.
Yeah. Right. And as you say, it's not just here's a course, we stuck it up online a few years ago, it's not changed. We are always working to refine and to iterate and to make it super valuable. And we're doing workshops, aren't we? We're doing co-working sessions, we're doing, micro learning, we're reviewing the material all the time. So this really is a living, moving beast that, we always gain feedback from everyone as a point of contact all the time to see how everyone's doing and to measure results. And that's where we can continue to get all that magical data that we can feed back into making it even better.
Yeah. So if for people who might be listening for the first time, or maybe you're new to this podcast because it's growing and growing every month, my background's in instructional design and adult learning theory and training and development programs from a corporate perspective. And I've been in that space since 1999.
We're really old, dude.
We are. We're damn near blue hairs already. Including, one of the most fascinating aspects of my job at one point was back in the late 90s, all of these Fortune 500 companies wanted to build corporate universities. And, I was on the ground floor in one of my roles building out a corporate university. And we happened to be where we were in New England, we were in Connecticut. And the founders of the company, one went to Harvard, one went to Wharton, which are very prestigious universities. And they got us entree into Harvard, where we got to sit down with some of the professors and learn how they create their college curriculum. And I got to eat in like the famed professor lounge, whatever the hell that's called. But there's a professor lounge in Harvard. It was like, so I don't know how to, yeah. And get to see what kind of what things we could take away from that experience to come back and build this corporate university. And so it's something I've been doing a long time, and it's something that happens very much behind the scenes, but in my opinion is very lacking in the online education space. We have a lot of people creating programs that don't actually understand how to design a program to get results and to work and to be effective and to measure the effectiveness of the program. And you brought up data just a second ago, and we collect so much data. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. She's laughing as she's drinking her. I don't know what she's drinking over there.
It's coffee.
It's coffee. I got my coffee. I got coffee too. It's not tea.
It's not. Usually it's tea, isn't it? But
it's not builder's tea that gives you the fuzzy tea. I know so much about the Brits at this point. Okay, so we collect so much data. And the reason why we do that is we are reverse engineering this program to intentionally and specifically get results.
Yeah.
And so some of you may have listened to, and if you haven't, we will link some of these up in the show notes. You may have been listening to our case study series where you might have heard some pretty big wins, like from Marie Parks, about how she went from selling 3-figure offers to 6-figure offers. No joke, proposing a $100,000 contract. I mean,
that was amazing.
Wild. I have people coming to me and they're like, we want to be like Marie. And I am so proud of Marie for being out there as a role model for women and earning and paying themselves. Or Cassie Christopher, who went from really focusing on selling B to C to not completely switching, but like really starting to get curious and navigate into this B2B space where she secured, I forget how much money it was, so don't exactly quote me on it, but it was like a $46,000 contract last year that when we did the math, and by the way, Cassie's a registered dietitian. She's in the health and wellness space, so she's not a business person selling to businesses. And when we looked at it, how many leads she got to replace, like she didn't have to go out and lead gen like 3,000 leads, I think it was. It was like such a savings of time and effort and energy. And then we had Kelly Ruda on, which depending on when this episode goes live, may or may not be before, or, this comes out, where in 30 days, she made like $70,000 based on the revenue acceleration process we took her through. Now, those are really big numbers. And I think it's so important to show all aspects of business, right? And that there's other ways to do this. And there's other metrics than revenue, like focusing on getting paid. And so one of the things that I noticed that came out of this case study series as we were doing this, Joe, is just the acknowledgement that women in the program are making progress every single week, and it's happening fast.
Really fast, right? And this is something that we really kind of underline, right? As soon as people join, it can feel really overwhelming, can't it? When you join something new, we help people, rock up and walk them through early steps and how to stay out of overwhelm so that they can really get some great results. And one thing that we really talk about a lot is just one action and one insight can be so powerful. If you're doing something every week and moving it forward, and often stripping all the noise back, all the expectations about what you think needs to happen, actually yields the best results.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're brilliant at that, at helping people strip things back and simplify and find that one insight and that one action, because this is a learning container. Mm-hmm. And we can't learn if we don't do certain things. We can't learn if we don't take action. We can't learn if we don't fail and make mistakes.
Yeah. Right. And we have that combination of, we've got the foundational habits that we help people set, right? Which, layer on each other to help get some great results. So after you've been here some time, you'll be doing those things in place just naturally, because that's part of the rhythm. And then we have, even if your win that week is that you managed to show up to the call because life's lifing. Awesome. Like, we want people to celebrate everything because each of those pieces make a huge difference as a whole.
Yeah, they really do. And so we're going to share with you some of these wins. And, the one interesting thing about the Bold Profit Academy is people come in and they sometimes say to me, well, what special group are you going to put me in because I'm at X revenue? And they want there to be some kind of separation based on revenue because they think there's something different that happens at a different revenue number. And I don't buy into that. I don't buy into that.
Yeah, we're used to seeing that, aren't we? Even in the marketing of programs, we're used to seeing being labeled and signposted, depending on your revenue.
And here are I'm going to give 3 reasons why I don't buy into that before we start sharing these wins, because I think it's important. Maybe 4 reasons. I do not agree with segregating people, and I'm using that word very intentionally, by revenue as an assumption of worthiness and contribution to the world. We're making an assumption that because you have a certain revenue amount, you are somehow more valuable than somebody else who might not be. And I'm just not going to partake in that at all. And I know it might make my marketing more sexy. I'm sure there are people who do believe that they're special because they're at a certain revenue amount. But here's the next thing. We all start at 0. Mm-hmm. Every year we start over at 0. So we still have to go out and make all the monies all over again and continue to make sales. And the third reason is we look at this based on stage of business you're in. Are you in a startup? Are you in growth? Are you in stabilization? Are you scaling? And the reality is we may be in any one of those stages at any time. It is a spectrum. It's not an absolute. So, for example, in the end of 2021, I stopped offering the mastermind and we went all in on the Bold Profit Academy. Well, guess what? That wasn't necessarily like a startup because I had already started up the Bold Profit Academy, but I was very much back at beginner steps to get the Bold Profit Academy to a growth point that it is now. So I have people who are like change their mind or they may have been in business for 10 years, but now they no longer want to offer this thing. They want to offer this thing. And now they're back at startup, but with all the knowledge they've had along the way. And then my last reason is the women that we're talking to are professional experts. They have knowledge and capability and competency already from a very long career. at least a decade's worth. When I first started my business, I had 15 years of experience in business. I wasn't new. Just because I wasn't at $100,000 didn't mean I couldn't sit at the table with the big kids. Why are we infantilizing people like this? I just don't understand it. So what we have here in the presentation of these wins and the progress that people are making is women at all different stages of their business, earning all different amounts of money, who are coming together because they've likely tried this in a lot of different ways and are tired of overspending and never keeping anything for themselves. So these are women who agree with me and say, I've tried my measurement of revenue, but that didn't necessarily put money in my bank account, my personal bank account. And so now we're here to look at the metric of how much we're compensating you, the owner.
Right. And, because you can have that huge, sexy marketing clickbait, revenue, but you might not be making any profit whatsoever. And are you likely burnt out, which is what we see all the time. So, what's the point in that?
Do you want to tell that story?
You tell it.
So when I first met Joe at the end of 2014. And what I love about highlighting my team members, and you're going to be hearing more from my team members this year, because I'm no longer willing to hold up this belief or farce or scam that I am the only one here doing things in my business. I am not. I'm not even the most competent at some things in my business. There are things that happen in my business that I don't even know about. There is a whole small, tiny but mighty group of women standing behind me, standing side by side with me, helping me lead this. And we have to stop making it seem like this can happen with a one-woman show. We do need support in some form or fashion. And so Joe I've known since 2014. And I was probably like 2015 that, all these like these free Facebook groups were starting for female entrepreneurs. And we were in this Facebook group together. Stacey Harris was also in this Facebook group. A lot of some of my great business friends have been in that Facebook group. And this woman was selling her program through a lot of psychological manipulation, and no fault of Joe's own. She joins the program and it worked. Mm-hmm. Right? You ratcheted yourself up very quickly.
I drank the Kool-Aid, and I had a big jump in revenue. So around about this time, I was doing that thing that so many of us do, that so many people, women listening would have done, and certainly everyone coming to us has done, which is hey, I'm going to go all in on this online business thing, looking at everybody else's goals and taking them as my own and thinking that was the measurement of success. And yeah, my income went up hugely. I was recognized in lots of groups. I had a certain amount of authority, in the kind of online interwebs style authority. And my income, it went right up. And as we know, Tara, my crash came, pretty soon after, because the state of hustle and delivery and scrabbling I was in, I had no business foundations in place whatsoever. I hadn't sat and evaluated what was going on. I was just drinking the Kool-Aid and trying to do the thing.
Hustling the money in.
That's what it was.
People
all about.
Wanted to pay you. And by the way, Joe is amazing at what she did. That's why she was being recognized and being paid and had authority, because she's amazing at what she does. Right. But there was no foundations in place to respond to the level of growth that she was seeing. And she got herself probably to about $100,000 a year. And then it got really scary fast.
It did. And when we say scary, I mean, psychologically scary, right? I mean,
mental health came crashing down.
Really did. And you've known me for a long time through various iterations of mental health crashing down. And, what I've seen and what we still see out there all the time is people repeating this same pattern, right? Without any knowledge of how to deal with operating expenses and profit and, where am I putting my efforts? How am I lead generating? It was a hot mess. Stressful.
You were in bed, though. I don't want to gloss over it. Like, do you remember me saying to you, Joe, do I need to get on a plane? Like, are you okay?
Yeah.
But you were in bed.
I was, for context.
Physically exhausted, mentally exhausted.
Completely. And I have chronic health things as well, right? Which, now I thrive with because of the way that I live and work. But in that kind of environment that I thought was the way, because I hadn't seen it modeled anywhere, I didn't understand that there was another way. It was really exceptionally unhealthy and really toxic.
And so you went and made $100,000 in a year, but then you spent like 3 to 6 months in bed.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
Not really being able to function. And you were, to tell you that I remember when this happened because it was happening everywhere. It's probably still happening. I'm just not paying attention to it anymore.
About it, right? Because it's like, this was like the dark.
This was this was 100% like women being rushed to the hospital. Yeah, it was wild. And so what I started realizing was, they're making $100,000, but it's not in a year. Because that $100,000 now needed to carry them through the 6 months of health crisis that they were in, if they were ever able to dig themselves out of it. And you thankfully were. And you've been really great at identifying how to create a business that works for you in your life and focuses on getting you paid. So that's why I'm so honored to have you here and guiding these women in the Bold Profit Academy, because you really understand what's on the flip side of this if it goes south.
Oh, completely. And it's an honor to be here and to be still standing. And, we quite often chuckle about my crises times. But as I said to you the other week, it's like, life is still lifing right now because that's how it is when you're middle-aged. There's stuff going on. But I was like, hey, Tara, things are tough, but I'm not quitting. Like, I'm not burnt out. I can share this with the team and my clients, and there's ways around this now. And there was no air to do that before. And I'm sure many people listening will understand that.
Yes. So one thing that I hear a lot from women when they're looking to join the Bold Profit Academy is like either time or timing, and something's happening in life. And I don't mean to sound callous at all. I appreciate things happening in life. I know what your things are. I have things in my life that are happening health-wise, family-wise, all those things. That never stops.
It's really annoying that it doesn't stop, but yeah.
It just doesn't stop, right? So like as women, we can't continue to put ourselves on the back burner while we tend to life. We have to create a business that is easy on our energy and allows us to navigate both, which is also one of the reasons why I'm being really transparent this year in the fact that I have a team, because it's taking all of us to keep this business moving forward. And so let's look at some wins, and through the lens of like maybe stage of business and reality of life. And we're not going to share any personal details of people. We're not going to do that. We want to kind of give you an overview of what this might look like. And I think the biggest win that we see in the program, just high level, is it's a place where women can be resilient.
Yeah, it really is.
Because that's how you win at business, is literally just putting one foot in front of the other every day. It's just keep swimming, just stay in it. And so what kind of wins do you see? So, the other part of this is women are notoriously shitty at acknowledging their wins. Let's just say that, right? Yep. So sometimes we put up wins threads and people feel various levels of comfort with sharing their wins, but we have started asking very specific questions to elicit very specific wins and progress from people, because the program is reverse engineered and designed this way. Mm-hmm. So what can we talk about in terms of women winning and making progress with the intersection of life?
Well, there's a brilliant one here that I just landed on, where the biggest win was taking 2 weeks out of seeing clients and spending time with their family and nourishing themselves and getting perspective. And I think given what we've just said, that is so important. And that gave them enough headspace, enough breathing room, enough zooming out and nourishment, to come back in and go, okay, what's next? And, we talk about the slow method, right? Where we stop and we let go of what's not needed. We own the now and we look at what's next, right? And that win right there is beautiful, right? It's like I stopped for a bit. I took my foot off the gas.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of another one we saw a few months ago where someone had to go to the emergency room. They were having a medical issue. And so they weren't able to work it was probably about a week or so that they were involved in this medical issue. And they had some email automations that they had been inspired to create through guidance and templates in the program. And those sequences were going out and generating leads for them to talk to. When they got back and felt well again, they could see who was interested in what they were offering and such. And they felt like that line of sight and knowing that was happening, even though they had to take a week off, was really reassuring to them.
Absolutely. And, on that theme, here's another one, someone's daughter was sick all week and they were really poorly, was taking care of the child. They took a week off and just let go of everything else. But then came back to, again, some sequence stuff going out with client inquiries happening. Life does happen. When you've got stuff in place, it will support you. And also having this container just to come and share, because we're all going through life in some sort of way. And, there's one here where someone said, this week's been a doozy. So, so win, for me, is making it through. And we're like, yeah, that's amazing.
Right. And so we always give people an opportunity to be seen and heard. We had one, God, it was months ago, but they were like, I'm struggling with anxiety and depression right now. Like things are feeling like a real heavy lift. And I appreciate having a container where I can come and share this and not feel othered.
Right.
For my mental health and for my physical health, because we know that is a reality.
It is, and we model that too, don't we? Showing up as the team, sharing, hey, this is what, if it's appropriate, hey, this is what's going on for me right now. Here's how I'm soothing my nervous system. It might help you. And then people chime in. Like no one's all shiny and perfect. That's just not how it is.
Yeah. And the other thing that we see, I think that's in relationship to this is getting less done. Celebrating taking things off of our plates, celebrating getting less done, and sitting in how uncomfortable that actually is. I messaged a friend and I'm like, I think I was at Costco at like 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning. Yeah. And I'm like, I need to do a podcast, like being at Costco at 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning and how I was able to do that. Because the reality is when I left my corporate job, the one thing I wanted to do, technically it was Trader Joe's, but I wanted to go to Trader Joe's at noon on a Monday. That was like what would have been like my biggest win. And here I am, and I'm, at Costco on Tuesday, but whatever. And like how that happened and why I was able to do that. And I was celebrating it in the moment. And then I got home and reflected on my day and started to feel like, oh, did I not do enough? I feel like maybe I feel like a little bit of a fraud here. Maybe I should be working a little harder. So sitting in the discomfort of having the space that you want to create and holding yourself accountable. So many women say to me, I want more space. And then they fill the space.
This is a constant one for me as well. It's always a reminder of, having the space to be creative and think clearly and do the deep work, and then that kind of mental battle. So it's always a mountain to climb, but having a place to share those wins and have those reminders reflected for you is really important.
And here's why I can do that. And here's why the women in the Bold Profit Academy are able to do that is we focus on consistent daily sales activity. Right. And when you take consistent daily sales activity, you create a momentum that cannot be stopped. And on the days that you have the energy, you do a little more. And on the days that you don't have the energy, you pause and you don't do it. And you know that the efforts you've put in are still working for you. And that's what you're hearing reflected in this when people are saying they've taken a week off and things are still moving forward. That's not by accident. That's planned. That's intentional.
Exactly. And we get that momentum, don't we? And, what we see so often, honestly, every Wednesday when I collect these wins and share them, it's just one of my favorite times of the week. What we see often is that empowered action is what's happening here. So people know how to generate those high quality leads. People know how and where to spend their time and their focus and their energy. And that empowered action is way more efficient and productive than throwing stuff at a wall.
So this brings me to one win that you had shared with me and saying how you love seeing the women come in. You're a big habit person. So seeing the women come in and celebrate their habits being formed and their habits forming through the tools and rhythms that we set in the program. So maybe talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. What I see a lot, and if I pull up my little board here with all the wins, I can scroll down and I see this over and over and over. So it's people celebrating that they've reduced their spending by using their Thrive list, which is something, which is one of our things which kind of underpins, work in the Bold Profit Academy. People doing their bold money memos at the end of the month and sort of recognizing their revenue and their expenses and having that line of sight and that financial, clarity. We're seeing people looking at things through the lens of energy and mindset and strategy and using those tools. So we're kind of iterating these over and over again in the way that we teach, in the way that we share all of our work and curriculum, and the way that we show up. And that rhythm, those habits of doing your Friday CEO debrief, of doing a monthly bold money memo, of doing your daily sales activities on stuff that you've already prioritized and that's happening, this is what's yielding results as well.
Yeah. And we have tools to help you stay accountable to that were built specifically as what those of us in the instructional design space would call job aids.
Yeah.
And that is it's a one sheet, it's an optimizer. You print it out, you jot your stuff down, you put it in front of you, and it really holds you accountable to that. The CEO debrief has been huge for women coming in and really reconnecting with their intuition. Yeah. It's been big for them in regaining trust with themselves. So these are these non-revenue wins that are so important that later lead to the revenue wins. The revenue doesn't come unless this shit's handled.
And something else which really speaks to that is, what we're seeing often is women celebrating that they've been doing listening calls, which you've been speaking about as well on the podcast, which we talk about often inside the Bold Profit Academy. Listening calls to actually have feedback, directly from your best fit clients. Now, are you going to sell, straight away on that call? Not necessarily, but you are gaining that insight, which will help you hone down and evolve even further down the line. These are the leading indicators. If the sale is lagging, this is where you're putting all those seeds in place.
Yeah. So we talk about your sales being a lagging indicator of success, meaning it's delayed gratification. A sale could take 90 days. It could take 6 months to actually show up. I mean, I've had people buy from me years later, right? But what are the leading indicators of success? How do you know that you're controlling what you can control? Because we can't control when somebody will buy. We talk about this all the time in the Bold Profit Academy. Just a reminder, you can't control when people will buy. But you can control your actions. And whether it's debriefing, which people say have helped them become their own business coach, which is the intention of the Bold Profit Academy, is to help you be able to self-coach yourself through your business. I don't want you to be codependent. I don't want you relying on me to be able to run your business. I don't want you to have to call me when you're having a moment or a crisis. I want you to be able to feel confident in supporting yourself through that. So not that you never need another coach, but so that when you do enter into a relationship with a coach one-on-one, that you're doing so from a more empowered place and you understand maybe more clearly what your problem is, and you can be guiding yourself and not engaging in a power dynamic that may or may not exist there. So, the CEO debriefs, the bold money memos, which is the month-end money optimizer to check in on that, the daily sales activity, debriefing your sales calls using the EMS debrief tool, are all ways that are helping women regulate their nervous systems around doing big, scary, uncomfortable things. And that's what we hear the most is it's keeping me regulated. It's helping me feel safe. That's what I mean when I say regulated, safe in my body. It's helping me feel safe in my body. And we had a win that was a woman who is selling B2B, got into a proposal negotiation, a proposal contract, giving a proposal to a client, and they were thousands of dollars apart when they came to look at the proposal. And it was uncomfortable for her. And she immediately in the meeting starts thinking about, who am I to be charging this? Yeah. Maybe I'm really not that valuable. And the reality is all sales is emotional intelligence. It's your ability to feel that in the moment, acknowledge it, soothe it, and then continue the conversation without going, you're right, I suck. And, I'll take thousands and thousands of dollars less. And she was able to keep herself present without dissociating in the middle of the call to say, all right, let's regroup. Yeah. Which is exactly what she needs to do to go and win that sale. So her big win was managing her nervous system in the moment, staying present with the negotiation, and knowing that she can regroup and come back. The listening calls, right, which is another one. This actually also takes a lot of nervous system regulation because you're putting yourself out there. You're asking questions, you're asking for feedback, which can be uncomfortable and scary. But what were some of the results? This was epic. I was like, this was a great win when this member was saying she was doing some listening calls. So I think that she was starting to get curious because she wasn't hitting numbers that she had wanted to hit.
Right. So she'd put out this offer, right? And, had some hand raises, but wasn't having the sales that was expected. So rather than, kind of either burning it all down, trying to reinvent the wheel.
Which is everybody's default. The offer sucks. I suck.
Yeah, I suck. Everything's awful. I'm a failure. All that kind of stuff, right? She regrouped and went, okay, I'm going to just dig a little deeper, invite people to have a conversation with me and find out why. And the results that she had from that were so incredible. She was discovering that it wasn't the price point, that it wasn't anything.
Right. She was telling herself a story. So people come to me and they tell me it didn't sell. This is why it didn't sell. And I'll say, did they tell you that's why they didn't buy it? Or are we making an assumption? Do not come to me with an assumption. Don't come to me telling me this is what you think someone is thinking. Did you ask them? Are you sure? Where's the evidence? Right? And so she'd come to me in the group, posted, and I went back and I said, well, what did they say? Is that what they said to you?
Yeah.
Right? And so I said, go get me data. And she went, courageously did these listening calls. Hey, will you get on a phone with me? Will you help me understand why you didn't buy? Yeah. Which is a really scary thing to ask somebody. Mm-hmm. And she was telling herself a story that it was price because this was a much larger offer than she would normally be making. Yeah. And she comes back and she says, it wasn't price.
It wasn't price. Often, she said that they were all cheering for her and really wanted her to succeed, which, completely turns away that story that, that we can all have in our heads, that everything's awful, they all can't stand us, whatever. And they were curious as to what she's creating now. They were like, okay, what is this? I'm not quite clear what it is. Okay, great.
Right. And we started to uncover the actual objection. So instead of going and wasting time or never selling something again, she can now move forward and make that sale. I always say it's not when you make the sale that I think is the win. And I have to, I think I'm really conscious to the fact that the women in my community, they want to do good for them, but they also want to do good for me. Yeah. They want me to see them. They want me to see them in a positive light. They want me to be proud of them. Some of them. Not all of them, I'm just saying. And because I'm teaching and I'm leading and, I get it because like whenever I join a program, I'm like, I'm going to be the A+ student.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the thing case studies are made of. Right. And that's a lot of pressure. And I always say to them when we go through things like the revenue acceleration cycle, I don't actually care if you make money. I mean, I want you to make money. That'd be amazing. I mean, wouldn't that be great? I care that you submit the proposal. I care that you make the offer. I care that you go back and you do a listening call, or you ask better questions, or you get some more data. That's what I care, because I'm looking long term. I'm like, if we don't understand what's not working, I actually don't want it to work at first, because if we don't know where things are breaking down, we don't know what to fix and make it better, right? And it's a process. All right. So are there any other wins that you can think of? So we talked about like celebrating getting one thing done and learning how to do less. We talked about celebrating habit creation and what that looks like, managing your nervous system when you're doing really, really big things. We talked about wins around going back and asking some bold questions so you actually get the data you need to make improvements. Oh, there was one that we had where they were celebrating. Now, this person's actually pre-startup, brilliant woman, pre-startup in her business. Great idea for what she wants to do. And she is celebrating being in a container where she's truly learning, because she's in some of these groups with other business owners, women and founders, and they're succeeding. They're making a tremendous amount of money in revenue, but admittedly, they're not keeping any of it.
No, exactly. This was one which really speaks to the heart of what we do here as well, isn't it? The fact that, this container is the right place for her, and she knows that she's building the foundations to pay herself well and to build wealth. And she's come from the world that we spoke of earlier, where it's all about the big numbers and all about the revenue and all about being seen to be the best. But behind the scenes, you're not paying yourself often. You've created a monster, this big, business machinery that isn't set up with those foundations in place. And so it was lovely for her just to realize I'm in the right place.
Yeah. And so a question I get a lot is like, how long will it take for me to start getting results? And I think you get them pretty immediately.
You do, right? And, so we have the new member calls, which everyone's invited to, whether you've been here, with us for ages or not, just to start again with a beginner's mind if you have some questions. But we can usually guide you to something specifically that will really support you in getting a pretty immediate win. And that sets off that momentum, doesn't it? To really just feeling like you can achieve more.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what do we should end note this? We should give a synopsis as we roll out of here. I kind of recapped what those wins were. What would your summary be?
My summary is that wins aren't always what you might at first expect them to be, right? We celebrate wins in a spectrum of areas, and recognizing that a micro win is a brilliant win often. And I think that understanding that tiny actions that build habits with consistency over time in the right support really get results that set you up for success that's, sustainable and doable and real. And also that we are all, real women speaking our truth here.
Yeah. I think, as we were sharing these things and as I was reflecting, as someone who has quit a business, who has quit two businesses before in quite epic fashion, one resulting in bankruptcy, knowing when to quit, knowing that 50% of all businesses will fail or more, and knowing when to quit is important, but also really difficult to know when to quit. And when you come and join the Bold Profit Academy, and you're seeing, we're showing you the progress you are making every week, and we're saying, yes, this is the progress you should be making. In this level of reality of your life and this stage of your business, this is what good looks like. Mm-hmm. Yes, you're making progress. yes, it feels like you're failing, but we're still moving forward, I think is really takes the weight of making that decision and understanding that complexity off of your plate. And you know what? Okay, I'm going to give you my favorite win.
Okay.
I'm going to give you my favorite win from the program. This woman joined. She showed up in the program a handful of times. That's okay. She could be independent learning. We don't know. And we do check-ins. We I had sent out a check-in or something like that. And it was maybe 9 months in to her being in the program. And she emailed me just like how uncertain she was about everything in her life. And she realized that what she was going to have to do to build this business and to make this work so she could pay herself, she didn't want to do. It was too much. She's like, this is too much for what I want. And what she wanted was to like work 10 hours a week. What she wanted was to not have to be thinking about what might be next or sales activity or having these conversations. She wanted her life to be very easy. And I'm not saying that in a disparaging way at all, because there is a complexity that we don't talk about to running a business. And there are trade-offs, and there's wonderful autonomy and agency and money that comes with being a small business owner. There's wonderful tax advantages, at least in the United States, to being a small business owner. There's a lot of amazing things, but she wanted easy at this point in her life where she was at. And so she was like, thanks. I know that I'm not going to pursue this anymore.
Amazing.
And I actually think that was a really good result, because how much time do we spend and how much money do we spend chasing something that we think we want or that we should want, but don't actually want? And I think that a lot of the programs online that are fun, like let's make reels, and you know me, I'm always shitting on reels. Let's make all the reels, or let's do the marketing. The marketing's fun, right? But it's this other stuff that you also need to be doing that isn't always as fun. And so even if you come into the program, you will know without a doubt if you are meant to be self-employed and to be a business owner and what exactly you need to do. No fluff. We cut through all the fluff, and that's a win. So I really want to encourage you, because there's a cost of not taking action. Yeah. There's a cost of not having a conversation with me to see if this is for you. And the cost is every week having momentum and support in your business. It's not feeling alone. It's having clarity around the next steps you should be taking. It's having tools and resources that you don't have to create, that will give you a system and a process, an organization in your business. So if there is any part of you that is like, oh, I just gotta see, I just gotta get off the fence, I just gotta sit down with Tara, I just gotta understand this, go to theboldleadeshiprevolution.com/academy and hop on the wait list. I reach out personally to everyone on the wait list, because what you're telling me is, outside of all the people who join my email, what you're telling me is you want my attention. Yeah. And those are the people on the wait list that get the most of my attention in helping them understand whether or not this program is for them. So that's theboldleadeshiprevolution.com/academy and join the waitlist. Joe and I are going to be really excited to see you on the inside, right, Joe?
We really are. We really are. I can't wait.
Thanks for taking the time to be here with us today.
Thanks for having me.
If you found this podcast valuable, help us develop more bold leaders in the world by sharing this episode with your friends, colleagues, and other bold leaders. Also, if you haven't done so already, please leave a review. I consider reviews like podcast currency, and it's the one thing you can do to help us out here at the Bold Leadership Revolution HQ. We would be so grateful for it. Special thanks goes to Stacey Harris from Uncommonly More, who is the producer and editor of this podcast. Go check them out for all your digital marketing and content creation needs. Be sure to tune into the next episode to help you embrace your ambition and leave the grind behind.